Hello, welcome to Shepherd My Heart. My name is Pamela, and I'm so glad you're here today. We are in a 5-day series called Storms and Surrender, Devotional Journeys by Sea, and we are on day 4. If you've missed the other videos, there will be a link in the description so you can watch those. But today, we're looking at when faith fails mid-miracle. I'll be reading Matthew chapter 14, 22 through 33 from the ESV version. And it says, "Immediately he made the disciples get into the boat and go before him to the other side, while he dismissed the crowds. After he had dismissed the crowds, he went up on the mountain by himself to pray. When evening came, he was there alone. But the boat by this time was a long way from land, beaten by the waves, for the wind was against them. And in the 4th watch of the night he came to them walking on the sea. But when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were terrified and said, 'It is a ghost,' and they cried out in fear. But immediately Jesus spoke to them, saying, 'Take heart, it is I, do not be afraid.' And Peter answered him, 'Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water.' And he said, 'Come.' So Peter got out of the boat and walked on the water and came to Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried out, 'Lord, save me.' Jesus immediately reached out his hand and took hold of him, saying to him, 'O you of little faith, why did you doubt?' And when they got into the boat, the wind ceased, and those in the boat worshipped him, saying, 'Truly, you are the Son of God.'" This takes place after John the Baptist is beheaded and 5,000 are fed with 5 loaves and 2 fish. Jesus sent the disciples on ahead of him while he went by himself on the mountain to pray. This story is told in Mark and John also, but Matthew is the only one that talks about Peter joining Jesus on the water. The boat was now a long way from land, and it was evening in the 4th watch of the night, which would have been about 3 a.m. to 6 a.m., and it was dark. I have always pictured this scene with high waves, thunder and lightning, a big storm. There is no mention of that, but each of the accounts say it was a strong wind that was against them, which would range between 47 and 54 miles an hour. Strong winds in a storm would often exceed those speeds, but the wind was against them, making it hard to get to their destination. Jesus was able to walk on water, navigating these winds, and was headed to the other side. Mark's account says in chapter 16, verse 48, that he meant to pass them by. Did Jesus figure he could get there quicker by walking on the water than by getting in the boat with them? Was he waiting to see if they would recognize him, waiting for them to call out to him, showing them his divine power to increase their faith? It makes me wonder how many times Jesus has come to me when everything seemed to be against me getting to my destination. But I am so focused on what is hindering me that I don't look to him, cry out to him, and see his divine power at work in my life. At first, the disciples did not recognize him, and they thought it was a ghost. Can you imagine being in the middle of a sea? It's dark and windy, and you see this figure walking on water by your boat? But he told them not to fear, but to take heart. I can imagine Peter thinking, "This is so cool. Jesus, I want to walk on water." None of the other disciples had the courage to try. Jesus invites him to join him on the water. What did that feel like when he stepped out of the boat and did not sink? He makes it to Jesus, but then he remembers his situation. Now, as a fisherman, I imagine that Peter can swim. Why was he afraid? He was walking on water. Jesus was before him. It was the same wind that was blowing when he stepped out of the boat. I am reminded of how many times Jesus has moved miraculously in my life, and yet when a new situation arises, I find myself afraid. Will he do it this time? Shouldn't I do something? This is pretty big. How will God come through? I love Jesus' response when Peter cried out. He immediately reached out his hand and took hold of him. He would not let him sink. Jesus will do the same for you. He will reach out and take hold of you. Jesus always responds to our call for help. He says to Peter, "O you of little faith, why did you doubt?" Peter had enough faith to get out of the boat, which was more than the other disciples, and yet his focus was shifted. And even in the midst of the miracle, he let the fear of his situation overtake him. But he knew what to do. He cried out to Jesus. Jesus calls us to assignments that invite us to step out on the boat. Even in the midst of miracles, we sometimes lose heart. We get weary. We shift our gaze. Don't let the enemy heap condemnation on you. Cry out to Jesus. He is there, ready to take hold of you. When Jesus and Peter got into the boat, the wind ceased, and those in the boat recognized Jesus as the Son of God. Jesus invites us into the story that reveals him to those in our world. What an awesome opportunity that Jesus gives us. He is there with us. Even in the midst of our miracle, sometimes we doubt. And yet Jesus is only waiting for us to turn to him and cry for help. I challenge you today to join Jesus, to step out of the boat and let it be revealed who Jesus is. God bless you.